Welcome back, folks. This is the Political Goat, and I'm your host, Uncle Felix. Today, we're going to have a very good show for you. We're going to talk about a few different things. We're actually going to stay local today for a little while. We're going to talk about that Lincoln High School construction project. Um, to help me do that, actually, we're going to bring on Budget Board member Michael Babbitt, who's a wealth of knowledge in this instance here. And we're also going to talk about Joe Biden's first week of in office. And it's been a wild week, that's for sure. Then, of course, we're going to get into some NFL. But before we do all that, I'm going to take a break, and then I will bring on Mr. Babbitt. One moment. Bear with me here while it comes up. Here we go. Mike, how's it going?
Hi, Felix. How are you? Going well,
right.
Thank you.
And as promised, this is Mike Babbitt from the Budget Board Committee. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your background and why are you qualified to answer these questions?
Well, I would say that, so I've been in construction almost 40 years now. I've been on the Lincoln Town Budget Board for almost 12 years now.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I've been involved in several of the committees in town. So as far as looking out for the town, it's something I've been doing for quite a few years now. And I got involved in it just for that purpose. Seeing that there was a need for someone to get involved that knew or understood construction.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know, I also sat on the town budget board for a few years, and I can tell you firsthand, Michael Babbitt is a treasure for the town of Lincoln. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge to this, especially with the construction background, which is very much needed when it comes for the town budget. And Mike, the day you decide to hang it up, we're gonna miss you. I mean, don't go. I'm being selfish, but I hope you stay on for a lot longer.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Felix. I just, I think it's everyone's position that they should spend a little time in here to do what they can to help your town.
Totally agree. I hope. I had to step down, obviously, because I just felt I had to dedicate the time to the kids. They were getting to that age in high school, but they're going to be going off to college soon, so I might find my way back.
Well, you'd be welcomed with open arms. That's for sure.
That's good to know. But so tell us about this project. Where is it now? Where is it going? What happened? And the reason I was interested in this topic, I had posted a story on my Facebook page about the bathroom stalls, and I got a few comments. People were questioning a lot of things. Should people be worried? Basically give us where we're at and where we're going on this project.
So we're a couple years in, and we are just finished, if you will, phase 2 of phase 3. There's another phase coming up now. I would tell you that overall, we've done well. There's been a lot of challenges. I'm not going to say there hasn't been. We had challenges with the design. We had challenges with the budgets. We've had, obviously, the pandemic, which affected our construction crews and the schedules. And, we've had to adjust phases based on some of that. So it's been difficult. I think overall, the project has gone pretty well. There's a lot of, I want to say, the news that gets out there and not necessarily all the facts. So it's not helpful, to be honest with you, for people to come out and just blurt out a problem that happens. There's a lot that goes around in the background, right? So I'm on not just the committee to build the construction, but I'm also on a subcommittee of that committee, which is the finance committee. So we meet every Tuesday, and then every Tuesday we meet, and then every other Thursday we meet with the full board. So we meet at least once a week with my group and then the full group. So everything that comes out as an issue or a problem would come to us in some way, form, of another. Because if you think about it, for the town, we have several people up on that construction site that are under our employ who have to report to us. We have Armin Milazzo, who's the head of the maintenance crew up there, who is kind of the eyes and ears for us up there when we're not on site to tell us what's wrong. All of that information gets put onto a punch list. That punch list gets addressed, and what happens is, and this is why I say it's not helpful to just blurt out a problem. If we can understand the problem first, what it is, and then we try to backtrack to find out, well, how did we get here? So then we have that information, and then we say, okay, we have all that, but how do we resolve the problem? So we go through all of that before we, I guess, in effect, report it to the full committee, because that's our job as the subcommittee. Let's get all this worked out. What's it going to cost? Whose fault is it? How do we address that? And then how do we make the problem go away so it doesn't affect the kids or the timing schedules to get the kids back in school? Like I said, to blurt some of that stuff off is usually, not helpful at all. It's too early. None of the information that we're researching gets put into that yet.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it on schedule to be finished on time?
So we are on schedule to finish by the date that was established with our GMP. The GMP is the contract that we signed with Gil Bain, who is the CM for the project. So we're on schedule actually right now to finish a month ahead of that.
Oh, nice.
But some of that is because we've moved. Like I said, when we went through the pandemic, and still obviously going through the pandemic, but when we first started with it, that allowed us to kind of advance into several phases where we weren't going to be able to advance till later on because the kids were in school.
Yeah.
So we took advantage of a lot of that. And what that does is when you push ahead like that, you actually can save some money because you're saving on the general conditions the construction manager would have to charge you at a later time to keep the trailers, to keep the scheduled people there, to keep, all that processes going. So we're seeing some of those savings where that goes. There's obviously some, we've had issues with some design issues missing. So we've had change orders. We've had changes to the project, which have cost us some money. But those items, even though we say they cost us money, it's not additional money, because when you set up a construction budget, you set up what it'll cost you, and then you have what you're said to be contingency funds. So if something goes wrong, we have a fund that we know is set up for that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that we just write out blank checks from it. I want to tell you, if you would ever go to one of those meetings, they're all public meetings, and especially the subcommittee meetings. Those committees meetings will last anywhere from an hour and a half to 3.5 hours. Because whenever we're brought a change order, it's grilled. To be honest, it's grilled. Why we're paying for this? Why was it not in the original scope? Why is it the owner's responsibility? And even at then, when we find out if it's an issue, let's just say it was something that didn't make its way into the document, or the construction crew, design crew that put it together, if they didn't have it coordinated so that it was set up for each person to bid it, we have a third column set up, which is an errors and omissions column. That column, we're tracking that number. And at the end, we'll be discussing that with the architectural and engineering teams to discuss how we make the town feel like it's made whole in those errors that were made.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to know that somebody's taking the tax dollar seriously,
yeah.
and not just spending it willy-nilly.
Well, I've said that before. I do want to say this. So because you were on the budget board, and that we do that, and there's no pay allowed for that, right? So I want to tell you that this team that's putting this together, well, we don't get paid to do this either, and it's an enormous amount of work. And this isn't something that's just done because we're looking for a pat on the back or something. This is done, it's love for our town, love for our kids, to make sure we get it right. And that's really what it's about. It isn't about money or popularity. Never was. Not for me.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it wasn't for me either. You're right. It's all about leaving a better tomorrow for your kids.
Right.
That's
right.
For sure.
And it causes, we have some pretty hefty arguments in there. So I would tell you that some friendships and some relationships with the teams, it does get tattered at times because, I'm a person who's everything's on the sleeve for me. So when I'm angry, you'll know it. So
nothing wrong with that. It's
yeah.
funny because I always say the same thing. You'll never know. You'll never have to ask yourself, does Felix like me?
Right. I agree.
So, hey, that being said about the town, where are we overall as a town fiscally?
I think right now we're doing very well. I would just put maybe a little caveat to that. We have to be careful, right? We're in the middle of this pandemic, and like it's affected everyone, it's affected us in the town. You know, a lot of the money that we do for capital projects, roads, renovations to other school buildings or town buildings, or if we need to purchase, stuff for the recycling teams or whatever, all that money comes, well, not all of it, but a good part of that money comes out of, the money that we get from the casino. And we know that we've seen a big drop in the monies coming from the casino. So where that'll affect us this year in the town going forward is going to be in our capital projects. I don't think it'll affect us in our budgets because I'll be honest with you, Joe Almond, who's done a fantastic job as
yes, he has.
Administrator. Yeah. And I don't say that because he's a friend, because him and I get into arguments just as well as everybody else does about certain things. But I just like what he's done with the town financially. And I would say that he's put us in a pretty good spot along with the policies that he has. But we are going to face, at least this year going, and I don't know about the years going forward, but at least this year, we're going to face some pretty heavy constraints on what we can do with the capital projects.
Yeah, the great thing I know that Joe does is that he doesn't use the Twin River money to fill in budget holes, right?
No.
It goes towards,
I shouldn't say not all of it. We do use some of it for the budget, but I want to say probably 6 or 7 years ago, we limited how much money from that facility can go into the town because of issues just like this. If we were counting 100% on that money and we went through this, we'd be in a whole different discussion right now, right? But knowing that was a possibility, it was put aside, and a lot of that money went into paying for roads. I mean, there are a lot of towns that can't afford to do what we've done with the roads. I mean, our roads are in really good shape in this town. Most of the ones, to be honest with you, that are in tough shape are the state roads.
Yeah. Surprise. Well, thanks for updating us on that. And we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's first week in office. So can you stick around for that?
I will. I'll stick around. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hold on one moment.
Okay.
Go buy the Cucina de Cafarina pasta sauce. It's better than your mama's gravy. I'm just telling you that right now. Go ahead and fight me on it. 5.0. You're not going to get a better sauce out of the jar from a store than Cucina de Cafarina.
Welcome back, folks. And this week here has been insane. And we're only 1 week into the Joe Biden administration. I don't even know where to begin. I got a few bullet points that I'm going to hit on. I mean, but this show could go on for hours, just dismantling these executive orders that he's brought on. Speaking of executive orders, which seems like Joe Biden is the king of executive orders as of now. And this actually, if you update it, he's actually closer to the number 30 on executive orders. And look at that in comparison to the previous presidents. And what's laughable is that, a lot of people like to call Donald Trump a dictator, you know what I mean? And obviously he clearly was not. Here we have Joe Biden, pumping out 30 executive orders already. And this is supposed to be a guy who, supposedly has the Congress, in his hand. He has control of the House, control of the Senate, but he's still pumping out these executive orders. And that's just insanity to me. Next thing I want to talk about was the his issue. One of the I'm losing my words here, but one of the orders he had was he dumped the Trump policy of transgenders in the military, and here it is here. If you look here, it wasn't a complete ban on transgenders like some people have you think. The ban was that basically Trump didn't want to leave the military with the medical bill for someone who was in transition, taking all the hormone pills and things of that nature. And rightfully so. I don't think an elective surgery like that should be flipped by the taxpayers. But Joe Biden saw fit to take that burden on and put it on to the taxpayers. And again, that's going to cost us millions of dollars a year. Not only that, we have the Keystone Pipeline, which has cost us thousands and thousands of jobs directly and indirectly, which he just ordered shut down, and for no good reason. A lot of people will point to, oh, he's doing it for the environment. But back in 2015, it actually passed the environmental review, and that was in 2015 under the Obama administration. Uh, everything points to actually it's going to be worse for the environment shutting down this project, because now you're going to have to depend on trucks transporting the oil, and other avenues of transporting the oil, which are more susceptible to actually accidents and oil spills. So this makes no sense, this move at all. The only thing I can think of is that he's actually doing it to appease his far left base and their whole wacky notion on climate change. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, gee, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You look at comparatively a pipeline versus trains, automobiles, and boats and ships, and the pipeline is much safer. Obviously, you're not burning fossil fuels to deliver it, so it's half the issue there. And that oil is still going to come here. It's not stopping the oil from coming here.
No.
And you're not going to have a green environment tomorrow. It's going to take time if we go that way at all, and for whatever percentage we actually go that way, right? Because you can't just stop it all. But that transportation is still going to happen. So I'm not really sure what that does other than take 11,000 people, good American workers, out of a job.
Yeah,
and it push us towards the part where we're going to be dependent again on somebody else. To me,
it becomes a national security risk, because we are going to have to depend on OPEC now.
Yep.
And this puts a smile on Russia's face, I'm sure. And it just makes us dependent on other countries when we were energy independent under the Trump administration. And again, that secures national security.
Sure. Well, you could see that just going to the gas pump this week, right? Gas is $2.39, $2.49 a gallon.
Yeah, I don't get it. And like I said earlier, it passed the environmental review back in 2015. So there is no reason to do this other than to appease his far left base.
Exactly.
That's the only thing that makes sense. The other thing he did actually, and I'm not going to kill him completely on this, where he pushed back the payment and interest for student loans back to October 1st, obviously for the federal student loans, which I'm fine with. And the reason I'm fine with that is because this whole COVID shutdown and things of that nature, nobody asked to be shut down. The government shut us down. So I'm fine with the government trying to make things right in that avenue. But that being said, everybody's worried because obviously one of the things on his agenda is to pay off the student debts, which is ridiculous. And it's very simple, folks. Just like this meme says here, you took out the loan, you pay back the loan. Nobody forced you to take that loan, and therefore you should pay it back.
So I guess my thought on that is, so what is he teaching us, right? He's teaching you at that level when you've just graduated school, when you're supposed to be hitting the market, and now you're going to have to go to work. He's teaching that you don't have to, honor your contract. So what happens later on when you get a mortgage? Are they someday going to take those, pay for the mortgages first, or your car payment that you couldn't afford, or your visa payment that you went over on, or
exactly? And how about
you're supposed to be responsible for yourself and your own actions, and if you can't be,
exactly. And how many millions of people, chose not to go to college to avoid that bill and went into trade or whatever? They have to subsidize somebody else's bad decisions, basically. And in all honesty, if you're having trouble paying off your student loan, it's probably because you went and got a degree on, on gender or something.
Yeah.
Something
So
like
if you don't
that.
mind, I just want to comment on what you just said, because I think that's very important what you just said. In this instance, right, we've got certain kids who graduated or got their way through graduation and got the grades to do so, and they put into these colleges. They went to these colleges and said, listen, I want to get my degree in whatever. I mean, you could say, right, we could do fashion, right? So some kids go in, they want to be in fashion. You cannot take that education and think that you're going to make $1 million. There are the amount of people that go into fashion who actually do very well with fashion is probably small compared to the numbers that go in.
Mm-hmm.
what should have been done with those kids is they should have sat down and said, look, you're going to go into this line of work, and here's your chances of making it, which are, let's say they're between 3 and 8% if you're going to make it into this fashion world, right? And what they think, right? They all think they're going to Broadway and going to work on the runway.
Mm-hmm.
So what they should sit down then is the college should be responsible then to sit down and say, look, you're going to be here for 5 years, $40,000 a year. That's $200,000 for 5 years. So $200,000, what you're going to be in debt. If you don't make it to Broadway, you're going to work at, I don't know, one of the department stores in their fashion stores, right? And there you're going to make $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now take out your mortgage, take out your taxes, take out your gasoline, take out your insurance, take out your groceries. Here's what you have left to pay. It's going to take you 22 years to pay this loan back. You still want to do that?
Yeah.
If they do, so why don't we make it so the colleges are the ones that loan the money? So they're the ones at risk. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, if the colleges have no skin in the game, then why would they change anything?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to produce. All
No,
they have
exactly.
to do is get graduates to come there, spend more money. They build more schools, build more dorms, build more, laboratories, and at the end of the day, we have more kids because we hear it every year. More kids are saying, "I'm broke. I'm still living at home with my mom because I can't afford to get on my own."
Yeah,
that shouldn't be up to the citizens. That should be against the colleges. If you bring these kids into these histories of what they're going to do for a life and what their living is going to be, and it's not going to be a positive way to go,
mm-hmm.
then you should be on the hook for that.
Mm-hmm.
Either make it so that they can succeed, or you're on the hook.
Yeah, and all this was predictable because I remember arguing with people about this back in 2010, I believe, is when Obama decided to take over the student loan industry. You know what I mean? And because they felt everybody needed a college education, but there was never a problem. Like if you wanted to go to college bad enough, look at the route I took. I went to CCRI for 2 years, then I transferred over to Bryant just because it's more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So not everybody can afford to go to a 4-year college right away, and that's okay. Like we need there's nothing wrong with that. People take different avenues,
Sure.
to get to the same place. And
so
this
what
whole
happened to those kids? What happened to those kids that were fiscally responsible and said, you know what, I can't afford to take out that loan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go work at Home Depot or Lowe's, and I'm going to make $11 an hour for the next. They're not going to get this benefit of this education paid for free for them.
Yeah,
What happens to them?
And as we all know, when you pay for it yourself, you actually take more pride in it, and you'll try harder. When something is just handed to you, I'd be interested to see a statistic on the dropout rates now. You know what I mean? Versus before 2010, I bet you you could see something there, correlation of higher dropouts now, simply because they're just handing out these loans now to anybody. Anybody can go to a school now that's $300,000 for the next 4 years, and it's insanity. But this was all predictable.
Agreed.
The other whatchamacallit that he signed, the executive order that he signed that drives me nuts, is the whole Paris Accord climate change thing. I mean, this thing is a total disaster. His tweet he put out today, and he's obviously all excited about it. But the only people who should be excited about that again is no one except for China, because according to the agreement, China can basically do whatever they want for the next 30 years. And it wasn't that long ago, actually, that she put out an announcement that they're actually going to raise their carbon emissions over the next few years. He's saying he promises, in 40 years to be down to 0 carbon emissions. But guess what? If he doesn't, what's going to be the penalty? Nothing.
Right. Right.
But now he's telling us he's raising those emissions. Meanwhile, we're here in America, and we're talking about lowering ours, which is going to cost us jobs. It's going to set us behind. It's going to just put us behind an 8 ball. It just puts us at a huge disadvantage. And I don't know how people don't see that. And all this, in my opinion, and there's no real evidence of climate change other than, the computer models that they use. Obviously there is, quote unquote climate change. The climate change has been doing that since the beginning of the time. But what we don't know is how much humans play a role into that. And it doesn't take it's fourth grade science to understand that carbon is not a pollutant. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's what we breathe out. You know what I mean? If it was a pollutant, I guess we should cut down all the trees, start eliminating people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not a pollutant, but they make it out to be, and I don't understand how people fall for this. Back in the 70s, it was under the guise of global cooling. In the 80s, we had the ozone layer. In 90s, it was global warming. And then finally, they smartened up and just put it all into one. They said climate change. So whenever a hurricane comes, they blame it on climate change. An earthquake happens, it's climate. No matter what, now everything falls under climate change, and and they'll say, oh, look at that's because of us humans are in our big carbon footprint. But one
Pretty
thing,
arrogant. It's pretty arrogant to think that, right?
really,
Pretty
but one
arrogant to
thing,
think that we can control what the solar system and this universe and this world is doing. Pretty arrogant. And when you say something like that, when you say we're polluting it with what? We didn't go to Mars and bring things back and stick it. Everything was already here.
no,
And it burned off before. It just burned off in volcanoes. It burned off in fires. It burned off,
Yeah, history shows us we had the ice age, right? And it came and it went. No, the dinosaurs weren't driving around cars, and
that's right. That's
but
right.
it's common sense, and it's unfortunate that we don't see that. And the scary thing is that we're going to ruin our economy for that, and all this because we have a political party that wants to take control of that industry. They want
correct me if I'm wrong too, Felix. I think that aren't we already below the levels what we would have to be at the Paris climate?
We were,
Right.
and under Trump, it's funny that a lot of people don't mention that at all. You know what I mean? And like you said, we did it without being in the thing.
Right.
And I'm all for, I'm all against, I should say, pollution. We should have clean water, clean air. All that goes without saying. But this whole, the water is rising. Which is hilarious because I don't see any liberals not buying beachfront property. You know what I mean?
Didn't Obama just buy a big piece of property right in the water?
Yeah. He has a place in Florida, a place in Martha's Vineyard, right on the water. I don't think he's too worried.
He's worried about it rising, right? That's why he spent $13 million on the house. Yeah, I get it.
And according to AOC, we got about 9 years left on the clock anyway.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. Well, welcome to the crazy world we are. We're just one weekend, so
very true. Very true. Very true.
We'll see where this lands. But Mike, thanks for coming on. It's been
thanks
great.
for having me.
No
problem.
I'm
glad to talk about it. I'm glad to make some sense of the situation. I appreciate you asking me to be here, and I wish you nothing but the more success in your adventure here.
I appreciate that, and I reserve the right to bring you back on for any other topic.
All right. Well, I'll be here. I'll be here whenever you need.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Folks, that was Mike Babbitt. Again, a wealth of knowledge in the budget board world. I mean, the guy was excellent when I was there. Whenever we would go take a look at projects, for capital improvements and stuff, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I would turn to him to see what he was thinking on it, again, because he's a wealth of knowledge on that topic. That being said, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back, folks. What a crazy week we had in the NFL, and the table is all set. We have the matchup will be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we have NFL couldn't pick a better storyline. We have Patrick Mahomes, who represents the future of the NFL, and we have uh, Tom Brady, who represents the here and now. And basically, is Tom Brady ready to pass the torch over to Mahomes? We shall see. Uh, I think it's going to be a great game. Two of the best going at it. Um, I'm looking forward to Super Bowl Sunday. Like I haven't in a long time. Unfortunately, my Steelers won't be there again. It's been about it's been 12 years actually since we won one. Uh, but I'm not going to complain. We had a good season. We had a good ride. Unfortunately, it came to an end. But I am looking forward to this. Tom Brady has actually the chance to win his seventh ring. Um, obviously that's insane, but think about it. He himself could have more rings than any other franchise because obviously the two franchises with six, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. Now he has a chance to get number seven with a new team. I bet you the Patriots are kicking themselves in the ass right now for letting this guy go because I can tell you he did not want to go. So he was basically pretty much forced out. And look how he responds by bringing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. Who knew? Hey, kudos to him. Kudos for them. Mahomes actually, he's looking to be in the record books too. He already won a Super Bowl last year. He's looking to be the youngest QB to win multiple championships. Now that being said, does anybody know which quarterback was the youngest to win it? Anyone? I know the answer, and of course, it was my man Ben Roethlisberger, the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But Mahomes is looking to become the youngest to win multiple Super Bowls, and that's an impressive feat. Um, that being said, folks, I'm going to sign off. We'll be back next week. No football this weekend. Well, we have the Pro Bowl, but that's not real football. As a matter of fact, I don't think they're playing this year. I think they're supposed to be doing something on Madden or something like that, and having Madden play the game or something like that. But it should be interesting. But there's no real football this weekend. When I come back next week, we'll see what other crazy, wacky things Joe Biden has done in that office. It's going to be a long 4 years, folks. But mark my words. Um, what I see here happening is basically a repeat of 2008. I think the Democrats are overplaying their hand. They're going to push through a lot of nonsense and piss off a lot of people. We're only a week in, and that's what we're seeing already. And these clowns show no signs of slowing down. So hang in there, keep your head up. And in 2 years, hopefully we'll have a chance to take back the House and possibly the Senate. All right. Well, that being said, thanks for joining me. It was a great show. I hope you enjoyed it. God bless.